This video is for students in Mr. Camacho's 6th grade social studies classes for the 2015-2016 school year. This video will focus on Unit 1, Learning Target 6, which is identify various map projections and their uses. And we talked about the different map projections that were out there in the book. I told you would not have to memorize what they were. We really highlighted two: the Mercator projection, which we used to find absolute location. We did that because it had the grid lines going perfectly straight up and down and perfectly straight across. And then also the Robinson projection, mostly because most of the maps we're going to use throughout the year are going to be Robinson projections. Now, with that being said, we didn't really focus on the other ones like the Goods Homolosine projection or the Lambert 4 and those type of things. But you don't need to know them. You don't need to know which is which. It's helpful if you do, but you don't have to. In every test, there's always going to be a certain amount of multiple choice questions, and there will always be an open response question where typically you're going to have something that you're going to have to look at and interpret. You're going to have to read, evaluate, and then you're going to be asked an open response question to respond to. And Learning Target 6 is going to be that one for this upcoming test. Not to give you too much information, but in this one you just need to understand why there are different types of map projections, that they have different purposes. For example, there's map projections that are there to show the poles, because as you know, when we did the Mercator projection, it really messed up Antarctica. It made it a lot bigger at the bottom because the way a Mercator projection works, it smashes it. So there's a lot of distortion at the north and south ends of that. So it would not be a good map to use when evaluating the geography of Antarctica. So that's where you would go and use a different type of map projection there. Each different type of map projection might move the distortion in different places. For example, a Goods Homolosine projection moves the distortion to the oceans. So it does a real good job making sure that the land stays the same size and shape. And then there's a balance of how you use the distortion. You know, a Robinson projection pushes it to the sides more so than up and down. And so you're going to use the projection that best fits your needs depending on what you're doing. And that's why you have to understand that there are different types of map projections. So for the most part, this will be having that knowledge going into this will really help you and going into the reading activity. And then always in open response questions, here's some tips, and I'll cover this in class as well. But make sure you answer the questions being asked. A lot of times there are multiple parts. There's a B, sometimes a C, or even a D. And make sure you answer all parts of the question. The best way to do that is to label your response. Here's where my A response is, and then answer all of that. And then after you've answered it, go ahead and tell me why you think you're right. If you can explain why you're right, then you've done a really good job of doing that. Oftentimes kids will take the shortest path possible to being completed, especially when you get to that last learning target, because you're ready to be done with that test. And you'll do your absolute best to just finish. And there are sometimes you leave ideas that you have in your head, and you don't put them down on the paper. And so as the teacher or the grader in this case, I'm reading what you have, and I don't know what you thought in your head. And you need to make sure that you articulate that on paper, that you put everything you thought of down on paper. And you have to use the right words for that too, because you will be limited in space to just one sheet of paper to answer the open response question. So other than that, tips for this first test, guys, when you get done with the test, don't ever leave anything blank. Go back, make sure all questions are answered. And then in the open response question, make sure you've answered everything that's been asked. Don't just answer part A when there's more to it. If there is more to it, always evaluate that. And we should be set up for some major success to start off our first test of the school year. Good luck, guys.